Good evening and welcome to our Monday, April 27th meeting. Call to order, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that the April 27th, 2026 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. If all could rise as able for the singing of our national anthem. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, moving to the approval agenda. Are there any amendments or things being pulled out of the consent agenda? Councillor Bougie.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull item 11C, Emergency Preparedness Week Proclamation from consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. And I would also like to myself pull 11B, departmental updates. Any further things? Okay. Seeing none, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Approval of minutes. Were there any errors or omissions noted? Seeing none, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following meetings be adopted as circulated. Previous meeting minutes, April 13th, 2026, and Committee of the Whole meeting minutes, April 20th, 2026. All those in favor? Carried. So we will move into our public meeting portion of this. This is zoning bylaw 06, 2026, Living and Roman Catholic Episcopal. I don't know how to say that word. Episcopal. I've heard it. I've never said it out loud. Apologies for that. Mrs. Haley.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council and members of the public. We have one zoning amendment public meeting this evening. Before we get started, I'm going to read required wording under the Ontario Planning Act. This is a public meeting under Section 34 of the Ontario Planning Act. Any person may attend the public meeting and or make written or verbal representation, either in support of or in opposition to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. If a person or public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the Council of the Township of South Glengarry to the Ontario Land Tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at this public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of South Glengarry before the bylaws is decided upon, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of South Glengarry before the bylaws decided upon, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. This meeting will begin with a presentation summarizing the application, followed by a discussion period during which all attendees will have an opportunity to provide input on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment if they wish. The subject property is located at part of Lot 1, Concession 9, being Part 1 on Reference Plan 14R5198, and being Part 4 on Reference Plan 14R1106 in the geographic township of Charlottenburg, now in the township of South Glengarry, part of the county of Glengarry, and the northern portion of the subject lands is addressed as 4182 County Road 34. So I'm going to show a couple of different photos throughout the presentation this evening. This area highlighted in turquoise is the area that's subject to the proposed zoning amendment. And you'll see there's two different colors on the screen, and that's because two different zones are proposed, which we'll explain further. Part of the zoning bylaw amendment is a result of a consent application, also known as a severance application, B8525. It was provisionally approved by the United Counties of SD&G on October 9th, 2025. The purpose of the severance application was a lot addition of land owned by the Catholic Diocese, and you'll see the area in pink is to be merged to the area to the north to enlarge this parcel of property. One of the conditions of the consent was that the applicant must apply and receive approval for a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the severed lands from the institutional to residential 1 to conform to the proposed residential use on the subject lands. And that's because all of the lands owned by the church are zoned institutional, which is very common for any religious-based properties. The applicant proposes to construct a semi-detached dwelling in the future on a portion of the severed lands. Therefore, the requested zoning bylaw amendment reflects the proposed use. The purpose of the amendment this evening is to rezone a portion of the subject lands from residential 1 to residential 2 to recognize an existing duplex dwelling, and to rezone the southern portion of the subject lands from residential 1 and institutional to residential 2 exception 5. This will permit a semi-detached dwelling. It will require the front lot line to be located on 3rd Street, to reduce the minimum lot area for each semi-detached dwelling unit from 930 square meters to 600 square meters, and to reduce the minimum lot frontage from 20 meters to 18 meters per dwelling unit. All other applicable provisions of zoning bylaw 3809 as amended shall continue to apply. We have a sketch that was provided to us as part of the zoning amendment application, so I'm going to walk you through it to kind of explain this a little bit better. One of the items in the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to recognize the existing 2-story duplex, which is located here on the northern portion of the lot. You'll see a dashed lot line here. The area highlighted in, or the wording highlighted in purple, and all of this area is the land that's currently owned by the Catholic Diocese, and it's merging to all of this lands here. In the future, if the zoning bylaw amendment is approved, and if the developer proceeds with developing the land, this will end up existing as 2 separate lots. The northern lot will be including the existing duplex dwelling. The southern portion is proposed to contain a semi-detached that will face south onto 3rd Street, and that semi-detached could eventually be divided along the party wall that would allow for each unit to be sold separately. So at the end of the day, this parcel of property is going to go from 1 into proposed 3 lots, if that's clear to everyone. So this map, this slide represents our zoning and our official plan designations. So the area on the left represents our zoning map. You'll see the area in yellow represents the residential 1 zone. The area in purple is the institutional zone. And then on the right, the area in pink represents the residential district, and the area in orange reflects a commercial district for Green Valley. Now we have some images of the subject property. This is the existing duplex dwelling. So there's a unit upstairs and a unit on the main floor. And this portion of the property would be vacant land. And again, just looking directly towards the existing unit. And then this would be looking south, and you can see where the additional land would potentially have development in this area here. And you'll see how much open space there is to the south of that existing dwelling. The application was circulated to the following agencies. So we had to circulate SD&G Transportation Services because it fronts on County Road 34. They have reviewed the proposed zoning amendment and have no concerns. They are supportive of the amendment. South Glengarry Water and Wastewater Department also had to review this amendment simply because Green Valley is serviced by wastewater, and they can support the proposed development if and when a semi-detached dwelling unit is developed. And we've also circulated to our Infrastructure Services Department, and that was more so for the proposed entranceways. Given that this property is a corner lot, we needed to make sure that there was adequate separation for proposed entrances off of County Road 34 onto 3rd Street, being it's the corner. To date, we've received no verbal or written comments through the Township Office. And the proposed amendment conforms to the official plan and the provincial planning statement. The zoning bylaw amendment application will be subject to a decision of council at a future meeting. It will be our intention to bring this staff report to our May 25th council meeting. And at this time, Mr. Mayor, I can answer any questions if there's any. We do have the agent for the applicant. Mr. Barrett is here representing the owner, so I'm sure he can answer questions as well. Thank you.
Mr. Brett, do you have any further comments you would like to add to Ms. Haley's presentation? All right, are there any questions from around the table? I see Councillor Jaworski, then we'll go Councillor Bougie.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. This is a question for Ms. Haley, just to make sure I fully understand, and also I have a question after that. So if I understand correctly, that corner lot being severed from the property owned by the church and then added to the property with the existing duplex. But is there a reason, is there a specific reason why it should go this way versus, is there something I'm missing about it being a standalone lot on its own rather than being added to the duplex?
So I'll do my best to answer that question. So it is my understanding that the owner of the lot containing the duplex wanted to own the remaining land that fronts onto County Road 34 directly south of her parcel of property. And it would give adequate space then to allow for additional development. Without this additional land, it would be tricky to do development on this portion of the property given the size of the lot. So I know it seems a little confusing because with the consent application, with the condition of the land from the church having to be rezoned from institutional to residential, it would be a straightforward, clear amendment. But because the individual has development goals, it makes sense to include the development goals in the site-specific zoning amendment as opposed to having to do a subsequent amendment down the road. So really, that individual is taking advantage of one process in capturing everything they want to achieve on that parcel of property in the future. I know I answered a little bit more than I needed to, but I just wanted to clarify that.
Councillor Bougie.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm glad to see this kind of development getting proposed. I mean, we need this kind of semi-detached and multi-use housing for sure in the township. My question was in regards to it fronting on 3rd Street. Is that typical that it would be fronting on 3rd Street and not the county road? Because every other house along there is fronting County Road too. And I know that might be an issue with entrance with the counties, but can you just speak to that, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's an excellent question. And in fact, we went back and forth both with the applicant and the United Counties. One of the conditions of the consent from the United Counties was to ensure that no new entrances would come off of County Road 34, considering the proximity to the corner. We were also looking at it from a servicing perspective and asked the county to reconsider, but they affirmed that it was important that the entrances come off of 3rd Street for safety reasons, given the proximity of the corner, et cetera. So it just means that this development, if it moves forward, would front then onto 3rd Street and would have 2 accesses or 2 driveways on 3rd Street.
Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Haley, do we know if that's gonna result in any additional costs for connecting to the sewer system? Or is that kind of why the preferred entrance was gonna be off there, or is it kind of a non-problem?
Again, through you, Mr. Mayor. So it makes it a little more tricky, but it's possible. So we actually had our CAO and our water and wastewater department review it to make sure that it was possible to service it. So what will end up happening is, as opposed to laterals coming directly off of County Road 34 servicing a proposed semi, because the semi is now going to face south, it will result in the need for an easement to be created in the rear yard that would allow the lateral to cross over the property on the right to service this property here. So again, if we were permitted to have entrances on County Road 34, we wouldn't have to have that. But because we are required to have the entrances on 3rd Street, then an easement will come somewhere in the back here. It will only be required over this property in favor of this property, because this property will be able to be directly serviced from County Road 34.
Okay, just, I guess it's too late for this property, but for future development, the counties have to realize it's a hamlet. We're never going to meet their standards as it is for a county road for the number of entrances. It's a populated area already, and it's been like that forever. So they have to realize that they're causing problems where they don't need to be caused. So sorry, that's kind of the impact here, but just kind of my 2 cents for those sitting at the county table to bring that up, because it hurts development whenever we make hoops to jump through. So thank you.
Thank you for that comment. And I believe there's somebody from the public who'd like to speak. If you just come to the lectern or the podium, before you speak, please, your name and your address, and that silver button is to turn the mic on. You'll notice it on whenever the red light is highlighted.
The button. There you go. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Are you the mayor? Yes.
That would be me, yes.
Remember me? Okay. My name is Yvon Ménard. I've lived all my life in or around Green Valley. Right now, I'm in concession 8, east of the flashing lights, 2 kilometers, at 20593 to be exact. 4 years ago, I became the intendant of La Paroisse Sainte-Marie de l'Assomption in Green Valley. As such, I am responsible for all the property, land, to look after whatever needs to be done. Back in March, I think it was, 24, Madame Lavigne approached us with her interest in this very small piece of land. May I point out that this small piece of land is of no use whatsoever to the parish. Nobody knows in Green Valley how that happened. I mean, I have my own theory. Maybe the street should have been moved over to eliminate this little parcel of land. I lived in the subdivision where my cousin lives, and I lived there for 21 years, and at the beginning it wasn't a complete subdivision. I go back even further than that, when Monsieur Joannette, a farmer at the corner of 34 and, what's the county road there, 25? He gave that land to the church. The parish was founded in 56. So how it came about that such a small parcel of land belonged to the church and not to where Madame Lavigne lives now, nobody knows. But I would like, of course, wholeheartedly to speak in the name of the parish, to wholeheartedly support the sale of this parcel of land to Madame Lavigne to enable her to build whatever she wants to build or allowed to build there. That's about it.
Well, thank you very much.
Push the
right.
button again.
Yeah. Is there anybody else who would like to speak in favor or opposed to it? Please, same process, name, address, and the gray button will turn the light on.
Hello. My name is Michelle Menard. I will be, I guess, the new neighbor of these semis. I live on 3rd Street and Highway 34. So my driveway is on 3rd Street, and my house is facing the 34. So the concerns I have, first of all, we've been there 40 years. So we've never had, the only neighbors we did have was the people that owned that house before, prior to the residents that are there. As you could imagine, for me, that the landscape is going to be almost mind-boggling. Not that I'm opposed to progress or, residents. It's just, I guess it's visually, this is going to be shocking from my kitchen window where I do my dishes to where now I see greenery and I see right to Kubota tractors. So as I can imagine, being that there's two of them, I was surprised by that. But this is why I'm here. So my view from obviously is going to be extremely altered. My concerns that we have is my well. As we all know, Green Valley, we're all still on wells. So my well is about, I'm going to say 20 feet to highway, to 3rd Street, which means that the houses that are going to be obviously in front of my well, I'm concerned about the impact that those dwellings are going to have on my well. I don't know if the existing well, because I do know where it is, the existing well there. My concerns are they going to be using the same well? Are they planning to have, and I know these questions, I just want to bring them up. I don't know the timeline of the construction. However, I worry, of course, if they're going to be drilling one well for the two dwellings, two wells for the two dwellings. Like, it's a concern to me how it's going to affect my well, because as of, like I said, we've been there 40 years. We raised 2 children. We've never had water issues or well issues, shortage of water or whatever. So that's a very big concern, obviously, to us, as you can imagine. Obviously, I don't want in any way that this would affect how much, gallons per minute, because I believe the last time we've got it checked, it was between maybe 5 or 6 gallons a minute that we have. So my concern is that, obviously, for all the reasons that you could almost imagine, we don't want that to affect us on that side of the street. I'm also concerned, will this be raising our taxes on our side? My other, yeah, and then of course, and I understand it might be too early to determine this as well, but like, the size of them, the height of them, like, is there anything, and I don't even know if that's a valid concern on my side, but like I said, I've always enjoyed that view for 40 years now. So it's a concern, like, is there a limit in size whenever people build something like this? Being that we are residential, and I understand that dwelling that's already there is extremely high because they've had, it is high, but is that what we're looking at? Are we talking that high that it would be potentially like a second level, or is it just a semi with, two homes, without having people living on top as well? So, which actually brings me to another point, talking about my well. If we're talking about a family, let's say an example of 4 in 2 dwellings, well, that's 8 people. But if they are building these dwellings with other families on top, then we could potentially, let's say we'd have like 10 people or, 12 people in these dwellings, which will that affect my well? Will it affect the quality of my water? It's things like this that I'm concerned about, and why I'm here.
Thank you very much. Ms. Haley, do you mind speaking about the height? Like, there is a range of height, but just like the maximum, it doesn't mean it's going to be hit, but just to know what can be there.
So excellent question, Mrs. Menard. So our bylaw allows for anyone in the township in a residential zone to build as high as 11 meters, which can be a 3-story home. And in this particular case, the applicant has not asked to go higher. When we go through a zoning amendment process at this stage, applicants are not obligated to give us architectural drawings or renderings that show exactly what the units will look like. So we expect them then to build within the maximum height limitation. So it potentially could be a single-story semi. It could also be a 2-story semi. It could be a 2.5-story semi. In terms of setbacks, they are required to meet a minimum of a 6-meter front yard setback. So if you can follow my mouse on the screen, from the front property line on 3rd Street, they have to build 6 meters back. They also have to build 6 meters back from 34 as well. So they'll, still be adequate sight lines for individuals who are at that corner to be able to safely see the traffic going north and south to turn on or off of 3rd Street. And again, they didn't ask for any exceptions to reduce those requirements under the zoning bylaw amendment application.
And just from a bit of knowledge on taxation, I would hazard a guess that MPAC, the assessment across the street, new builds typically have higher assessment. Older builds typically aren't affected by new builds directly. Like over time, all assessment will go up, typically. But I don't know if I had seen that happen, so I can't speak specifically to that, but generally not. And then the water issue is, I guess, I don't know if we have an answer for you right at this moment, but Ms. Haley can get back to you, or if there's any information when we go to prepare the report. Are there any other further questions that you have or comments? Okay, well, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak presently? Okay, well, that concludes the public portion of this meeting. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance. And we will continue on. You're more than welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting, but you're also quite likely to want to leave and enjoy the last bit of sun we have on this lovely day. So we'll move to action requests, which is appoint engineer Oliver McGee Drain. I believe this will be taken by our CAO. So it will be moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2026-48 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry appoints Shade Group Incorporated to update the Oliver McGee Municipal Drain Engineers Report under Section 78(1) of the Drainage Act, RSO 1990, to legitimize the drain relocation request, and furthermore, that the engineering and construction costs will be the responsibility of the developer. Mr. Fothrop.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. This report is essentially, it's a requirement under the Drainage Act to appoint an engineer to update our municipal drain report for the Oliver McGee Drain. Council members may recall we had discussed this at a previous meeting. It's related to the expansion of the existing subdivision, which is going to require that in order to be efficient with the lot layout of this next phase of the subdivision, a relocation of the Oliver McGee Drain. So this is just a form to formally appoint the Shade Group to update that engineer's report for the drain.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments on this particular one? I know it's come across a few times. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor McDonald. My question is more a general one, just because there was some drainage work done recently near where I live, and a lot of the neighbors had questions about the process and what have you. And in this case, this work is, while it's being done on an undeveloped lot, it's going to be in proximity of new existing residential. So maybe not for this, but for a future communication, if you could review how the information is communicated to residents about what work, what work may happen, when, at what kind of timelines they would be informed of ahead of that work, that sort of thing, just sort of general communications to the residents. I'm not sure if we do that, or if it's engineers who do it, or if it's our drainage superintendents, sort of who's the responsible party for that type of communication. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, there are very prescribed processes in the Drainage Act. If work is being done, particularly quite often, if improvements are being made to the drain, a lot of the municipal drains, a lot of times the cost of those improvements are shared amongst the property owners. That isn't the case here. So I would have to review with our drainage superintendent to see, again, what notification requirements are stipulated in the Act for a work like this that does not get charged back to any of the residents. And at this stage, I don't believe, we know exactly at what the timing and construction. I think this is really more in the design sort of phase. But as we know more, then yes, I'm sure we can find a way in which to share with the neighbors.
Councillor McDonnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just I guess to that point as well, Mr. McDonald shared with me time and on a number of occasions different, I guess, fact sheets that they do have, and probably something that we could quickly pull together just based on the drainage, the administrator that looks after the Drainage Act, if it's OMAFA or who it is. But anyways, they've got a wealth of fact sheets, especially for residents, non-agriculture, and industry, that make it easy and simple. A lot of people see these, example in North Lancaster, when we did the re-engineering of the drain, we had a full house of people, and really there's about 7 people that were paying for that re-engineering, and those 7 people weren't in the room because they know the process already. Residents figure they're going to get a major bill, but generally their portion comes out to $15, and under $20 we don't bill it out, and the township absorbs it. So it's just little facts like that that put everybody at ease and keep a public meeting calm.
Yeah, fair point. I'd say anything less than half an acre is probably not going to pay, but Maple Road is more, your residences have larger properties. But, okay, all those in favor of the motion is read. Carried.
If I may, Mayor McDonald.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Oh, now I hear myself very clearly. I was having issues hearing. I wondered if it's because I'm in the deputy mayor's chair and this is where there's a dead zone, but sometimes I don't hear well.
I believe just you can, okay, but it's working now? Okay. Okay, just a reminder then to speak as close to the microphone as possible for everybody there, as well as on YouTube later. Item 8B, award RFP 2026-04, Sutherland Creek Bridge Rehabilitation. I believe this one will be taken by RCO as well. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 2026-49 be received, and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry award RFP 2026-04 for the Sutherland Creek Bridge Rehabilitation to DW Building Restoration Services Incorporated in accordance with their submission of $614,742.90, excluding HST, and furthermore, that the General Manager of Infrastructure Services be authorized to sign all appropriate tender documents. Mr. Fothrop.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor, and through you. This report is to award the tendered works for the rehabilitation of the Sutherland Creek Bridge to DW Building Restoration Services. We issued a tender jointly with the SDG counties. They have a bridge nearby that requires a small amount of work. So the combined price of the work of the submission is $614,000. Our budget for the Sutherland Creek Bridge was $550,000, and our component of this tender came in just slightly under budget. So we are recommending that we award the tender to DW Building Restoration Services.
Okay, thank you very much. And I do appreciate, as you're sliding through here, that it shows like one bridge, the yearly reserves, if we're planning to replace it. There are large items, but on budget or under budget and previously noted. Any questions of council? All those in favor? Carried. Moving to item 8C, request for removal of heritage designation, the Curry House, and Mrs. Campo will speak to this. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that staff report 2026-50 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry refer the request to rescind bylaw 51-7, being a bylaw which designates the property 21831 Concession 2 as having historical value and interest to the Heritage Advisory Committee for consideration. Mrs. Campo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. This is a bit of a unique request, or different than what council may be used to with regards to heritage designated properties, in that the owner of this property has requested to have a heritage designation removed from their property. Under the Ontario Heritage Act, there are provisions for that process where an owner wishes to remove a designation. And the first step in that is submitting a request to the municipality, which she has done. So the next step is that we are required to post a notice regarding the request, as well as to consult with the Heritage Committee, who will then review and provide a recommendation to council with regards to whether or not to accept or refuse the request. So as noted in the recommendation, recommending that we, well, it's a little bit misleading. I'm recommending that we defer to the Heritage Committee for an opinion. However, we are required to. So, but having it in a resolution, it keeps it on the public record. And for us clerk folks who typically have to go down rabbit holes for historical properties, it will be helpful to have it noted in the minutes.
Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, did the property owner indicate any time, is it time sensitive? Is this I do understand the property's listed, so I don't know if that's just a condition of sale or of agreement.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is not a condition of a sale. It is listed currently. However, the property owner did note that
Insurance
the
costs.
request was related to insurance expenses should she not sell the property. And so, no, it is not contingent, like it's not holding up any pending sale. However, the question, I suppose, came up through the process where the property owner learned there are certain restrictions with the designation being registered on title. And so she's inquired to get the ball, I suppose, rolling.
No, perfect. No, I just, that was my kind of first question, and then a supplemental, if you don't mind. If the Heritage Committee, like, example, we have other committees of council that make a recommendation to us, it's council's decision at the end of the day. Is that the case with this, or do we have to follow the committee's recommendation?
It is council's final
Okay.
decision, and that is a caveat that we, with the Heritage Committee, we do advise them that at the end of the day, it is council's decision on whether or not to accept the recommendation. Should council refuse the application, there are venues for the property owner to appeal that decision. However, it is council's decision.
Thank you. And just, I guess, comment to this, and something that should be raised at the Heritage Committee as well, is the reason this is coming up is because of insurance costs, and it's been a major issue in the Kingston Frontenac area, and I think the province has some form of legislation that says it's not supposed to cost more, but inevitably insurance companies price the market and do what they have to do. So in this case, I guess it's glad to see the background on it, but also just to emphasize that, I think, to the committee for Councillor Bougie.
Yeah, I understand the insurance is quite exorbitant, and it is something to think about as we go down the road of that committee. Is there are benefits to protect your property, but there are also costs, and sometimes you want the benefit, but you don't want the cost. It's just it was interesting to me. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Yeah, no, Councillor McDonnell touched on it, just that I'd recalled that we had, I think, a resolution regarding this type of issue, or maybe not not a resolution, but in the correspondence, there was a resolution, I think, from a municipality asking for some relief to this. And I mean, and I don't know, obviously needing to be sensitive with this, but it would be, I think, informative if the applicant was able, like, particularly with the Heritage Committee, if they were able to share sort of the magnitude of the difference in having like a regular insurance versus the fact that it's heritage. I think that would help. That would be important context, I think, to the discussion.
Yeah, I guess suppose you have some more information, but that's somewhat private, so if you could just ask to see if, ask that person if they're willing to share it, I suppose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we can certainly invite her to attend the meeting or provide delegation materials with whatever information she's willing to share. That invitation will be sent to her to do so.
It is quite the stunning house, though. It's a nice deek.
It was
whenever
on
you-
the Glengarry Rambles tour.
Yes, I understand why. All those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Information report, Charland Rec Center capital project update. Mrs. Harbour, or Miss Harbour, sorry.
Good evening, Council, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So this is just a project update for Council and the public to see on the capital project happening here at the Charland Rec Center. Obviously, it doesn't include every detail of the project, but it does give Council and, like I said, the public a good update on where we're at and highlight some of the key changes or updates that we can share at this point, as construction had just started on April 13th. We're also happy to show some images here of the interior and exterior to show the color selections. These are just meant to give like a sense of the overall look with the color selections. I do want to note that it's obviously not an exact replica. Obviously, the glass and the netting and our heaters in the stands and such aren't all shown here, but it just gives, again, a good visual of the colors for the arena. Also, as the project moves on, we would like to continue to provide updates. As mentioned in the report, we've been reaching out to our user groups to let them know about the project as well. I also just want to confirm, I know there's been some questions, but that we are continuing with the Butler product, which was specified in the original procurement for the roof and siding, just so that council's aware of that as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Obviously, with this project, I am learning as we go as well. It's a pretty complex project we're working on, but happy to answer any questions, or if I don't have the answers, I can definitely get them for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bougie.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Ms. Harbers, for the update, and it's good to see things rolling and on time, and hopefully it stays on time throughout the project. Is there any talks about when kind of we will be displaced from this area, like the council, in our council meetings? Did they talk about kind of when maybe we can't access the building? At what point will that come?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. At this point, we should continue to be able to access the Tartan Hall for council meetings. It's my understanding that there's going to be a portion behind me that will be closed off, which is why we are limiting, part of the reason why we're limiting access for rentals and such. But they will be accessing the roof behind us, but we still plan to be able to have the meetings here. It's just that's why we'll start to use that area for the audience as opposed to behind us. So unless anything changes or if, something changes with the project, but the contractor is aware of the dates of the council meetings, the scheduled council meetings, so they're preparing to work around that as well. So, but we will provide an update if that were to change for sure.
Councillor Jaworski and then Councillor McDonnell, I believe.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. No, this is really neat to see. I'd received some positive feedback from some of the user groups about what like the renditions look like. A lot of positive comments about the clean look, and it was interesting to read about like the solar reflectivity of the exterior. So looking forward to hopefully seeing some even if it's minor, like energy savings. I've heard some comments about, I don't know if this is truth or rumor, but in terms of like changing the lighting, is that something that needs to be done? Like, because I thought it was fairly recent.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. The lighting that's out there right now is LED lighting, and it was changed in 2018. And it was proposed for the project to just have the lights removed during the project and reinstalled, just as we're trying to save costs on this ever-growing project of different items as we were trying to put it together and what it all needed to include. Also, given looking at the cost of what the lights were back in 2018, I don't know if anyone else has even noticed with even their household products, LED lighting is a lot cheaper than it was back in 2018. So we are looking at that right now because there's also a Save on Energy rebate that has changed quite a bit in the last 8 months and has become a lot easier to obtain as opposed to doing a lot of different reporting for it. So something that we are looking into, but as the scope of the project, it was supposed to be having the lights removed and put back up. Also considering the labor that goes with that, maybe it would be the time to change out the lights just because of that. But originally, factoring in the costs and trying to keep costs down, we weren't including it originally.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. This is kind of like just a general comment because I've spent a lot of time in rinks lately for non-hockey related activities, and one of the rinks I saw had a portion of their netting that could be removed for like figure skating, so that folks could do filming or photography without having the netting, in the field division. So. I don't know. I figured I'd throw that out there. If there's any time to throw it out, now is the time, so I'm sharing it.
Thank you. And Councillor McDonald, I don't know if you had your hand up or I just saw something in the corner.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I did have it up, sorry. I just wanted to say thank you for bringing it. It was good to see the renderings. And I wish you best of luck in the project, and feel free to reach out to help from anybody if you need it. So don't bear any burdens you can't handle. So we appreciate your hard work on this.
Yeah, thank you. The biggest probably building project done in our rec in some time. So thank you for that. And then I do like the white color. That's wonderful. My favorite, we'll call it barn to play in, was St. Isidore, and it always had that. It's a bright one, so that's going to brighten it up, which will be, I think, aesthetically pleasing. In addition to better for the whole construction. Anyway, thank you very much for your update, and look forward to progressing. 2 items pulled from consent agenda were 11B. I guess that was me. I just wanted to highlight something in there that I liked, or several things. It seems like our communications are going quite well because Q1 is almost halfway to the whole year of last year, and that's on the corporate services. Fire, it was nice to see that that radio project will be imminently coming, it seems. Roads, I guess I was looking at active transportation. One of our things on the strat plan is the peanut line. I suppose we're not really taking a decision on that, but somewhat tied to that too. So that's on us more than anything. An interesting stat was that 162 for garbage and only 2 for potholes. I imagine in Q2 that will change because I'm sure 2 sounds a little low, but I did talk to our roads manager recently, and we do get out and grade, but it really is a performative process because as much as it is drier, there's still some frost coming out of the ground. There's still a lot of moisture, so I know that's frustrating for those who live on gravel roads, but please be patient. We're normally out there a day or 2 after you call me. I don't take any credit for that. The crews know when you know, so I just wanted to highlight that. And then the planning and building had a question about where to locate the business gala. St. Mary's Center popped in mind if we want to keep it in Williamstown, but there's many places here. And an interesting thing for recreation with this building being closed, St. Andrew's United, the church that my family attends, actually has one of the dance groups is renting out of there. So I guess it's kind of fun that way to see where things go. Councillor Bougie, you had 11C. Oh, Councillor Jaworski, sorry.
No problem. Thank you. Through you, Mayor McDonald. I think we had discussed at a previous quarterly update of whether or not the items that are covered in closed session could also be included, obviously not in the open session, but in a closed session following. So I don't think that happened this time, but maybe just to take note if I thought council was supportive, but remember that for the future.
Okay, yes. We'll put that one, that's on your shoulders. So please, please come back with it, I guess at the next quarterly one. Thank you for that reminder, because that is something that we had desired. 11C, Emergency Preparedness Week Proclamation. Councillor Bougie.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, I just want to bring this forward. We had passed a proclamation for many years now in a row. The main takeaway here is to have community awareness and the need to be prepared within 72 hours for a possibility of an emergency. And we've had some power outages in the township and around the township over the last couple of years. There's been a couple of significant ones. So I was just hoping with the will of council, we could pass this tonight and have it read, because it's the week of May 3rd to 9th.
I suppose we'll go ahead and do it? Yes. Okay, so the proclamation, it is Emergency Preparedness Week Proclamation. Be it resolved that the Township of South Glengarry recognizes the importance of emergency management in Ontario, and the goal of Emergency Preparedness Week is to raise community awareness and the need to be prepared within 72 hours for the possibility of an emergency. And whereas during Emergency Preparedness Week, Ontario residents will identify and learn about risks in their communities and how they can protect themselves, knowing the potential hazards and risks you face. Planning ahead and being prepared are the best steps to ensure that you and your family will survive an emergency or disaster. And whereas, although focused on personal preparedness, Emergency Preparedness Week also carries messages for business owners, municipal officials, and utility operators, ensuring business continuity and updating emergency plans are all just as crucial in assuring community preparedness. And whereas all levels of government have an important role to play in emergency preparedness and response, but ultimately emergency preparedness is a responsibility of each and every one of us. Now, therefore, the Council of the Township of South Glengarry hereby proclaims the week of May 3rd to 9th, 2026 as Emergency Preparedness Week in the Township of South Glengarry, and encourages all citizens to begin today and learn how to prepare now for a safer tomorrow. Yep, it is read. Okay. Consent agenda, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that Council accepts the items listed on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Carried. We do move to boards and committee updates. County Council, we did have a meeting. There was a lot on that meeting without getting too heavily into a lot of things, but touching on many. We had the St. Lawrence River Institute present, same with the City of Cornwall. The mortgage ending for the Lancaster District nonprofit. There's a little bit of, it seems there's some communication that needed to be done a little bit to, well, there could be improvement, but I think this meeting brought it forward. So that group, their mortgage ended and there's some funding attached to it, so they have to renew their lease and that model. They are able to do it themselves. In Avonmore, that did happen, so they're investigating that. There was a reserve report, a setback report, fairly standard. A regional investment program, they spent all the money. I think there are 2 businesses in South Glengarry that got it. Centerline, something interesting is they paint their center lines every year. I did not know that. Roadside spraying's coming up, so if anybody you know wants not to have their ditches sprayed, please contact the counties. Disc mowers were brought, restricted acts, OPA, the arcane one, same thing, designating it out of a salvage yard. A few other things. There was a report that I had, or Councillor, I guess in this case, Deputy Mayor Lang and I had kind of persisted. I had done the last 4 reminders, but they added 5.2 FTEs. Their winter employees got hired for the summer so that they could do more works inside. Turns out they're getting quite a bit more work out of it. And it is costing more, but it was always going to cost more, so that came back better than expected. Intersection improvements, right fit, right problem, so that was nice for everybody to know. And then if I can go to RRCA, there's a transition group as we move from 36 to, is it 8? Or 7? 9? Okay. as it gets shrunk. So we had our first group there. That's Councillor Gaindo, or sorry, Deputy Mayor Gaindo and Councillor Jacques Massey from North Glengarry and myself on that one. Are there any other updates from Councillor McDonnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the archives met last Tuesday night. We passed our budget. Should end up between where the bank account was sitting and where we will be finishing the year with a healthy surplus in the $20,000 range, 20 and change actually. Some highlights for the year: the archives will have a summer student this year to do some research, interviewing locals and trying to archive, I guess, some of the history that was around the school board and the French English divide of Glengarry District, and kind of the outcomes of that and those from the time. Those folks aren't, overly aged, but they, that time will come, and times of the essence with anybody. You never know when those stories are lost. So that's a project for this year. Some acquisitions of some new files to be added in documents. A very good neighbor of mine in Lancaster Township, former dairy farm, still a current farm operating, handed over milk shipping reports, cash books, herd records, and even a vehicle permit for a 1919 Model T. So some of these things were collected. A book from a local taxi, journal book from a local taxi back in 1952, for the year of 1952. Some records of some of the rides that were done and where they were going and some of the events that maybe took place in their nights. And a collection of letters home from a local World War II veteran flight sergeant. Some Martintown-related records around more or less around the mill and some other neighboring properties. Some aerial photos of Glengarry received from the province. And our RCA records, the meeting minutes and things dating back to the 1960s. And just some highlights out of that. Coming up, there's a trivia night, which the township's well aware of, but we'll highlight it here, benefiting the museums of Glengarry. So that will be held in North Glengarry the 25th, I want to say, of the month. A month of May. And then, sharing some wealth of knowledge, maybe with South Dundas in their archives pursuits. And we've had an increased request of U.S. citizens looking to trace routes back, to Glengarry, but I guess it's a common theme across the country since the citizenship rules have been changed, that if you can trace back and find a straight lineage to Canadian roots, you can apply for Canadian citizenship. So we've had a number of them, and I guess Mr. McDonald did inform us that there has been 60,000 applicants for Canadian citizenships in the last year. All U.S. citizens looking for citizenship. So interesting little tidbit, and in those changes and what that impact is on, I'm sure, some staffing at the federal government level.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I think the stats can say Canada for the first time since Confederation had a population decline, but it's nice to see our southern neighbors and really mostly good friends looking into coming this way.
Some interesting calls from California, Tennessee, all the Mr. McDonald trying to trace lineage. So
wonderful.
Interesting.
Bring some people home. I will get into the confirming bylaw if there's no other comments from boards. Okay, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that bylaw 2026-34, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 27th day of April 2026. All those in favor? Carried. Adjournment, is there anything to add of anybody? Okay. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry adjourn to the call of the chair at 7:30 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. I should have said 7:29 just to get it under an hour. All right, everyone have a good evening.